All right, so picture this. You're in your 50s and you start getting, that nagging back pain, that chronic back pain. And so you go to the doctor and they say, well, it looks like osteoarthritis. You start treatment, but what if, what if that osteoarthritis wasn't just bad luck? What if it was actually like connected to untreated depression from like a decade earlier?
Wow.
That's the kind of thing that we're going to be diving into today.
That's a fascinating concept.
Yeah. We got some really interesting research that you guys sent us from PLOS Medicine. It's called A Cohort Study of Physical Health Condition Accrual in UK Biobank. And we're ready to unpack it.
It's a really groundbreaking study that I think really challenges how we think about mental and physical health.
Exactly. So first off, this UK Biobank study, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
They followed over 172,000 people.
Wow.
Between the ages of 40 and 71.
Okay.
And they were tracking the development of, get this, 69 different physical conditions.
69. Over an average of almost 7 years.
That's a lot of data.
Yeah.
That's a lot of data to go through.
I mean, that's a ton of data.
Yeah.
And the findings are, kind of startling. Adults with a history of depression, they actually developed these physical conditions about 30% faster than those who didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a significant difference. That's almost a third faster.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
So in a decade, someone with depression could potentially develop 2 more physical conditions.
Right.
Compared to someone, without depression.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
But we're not even talking about rare diseases here.
Right.
I mean, these are things like the most common ones were osteoarthritis, like we were talking about before, hypertension, and even acid reflux.
Yeah.
Things that a lot of us have probably dealt with at some point.
Absolutely. These are really common conditions, and they can significantly impact your quality of life.
Yeah. And even lead to further complications, down the line.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so we've kind of laid out this connection, depression and developing physical conditions faster. But why?
Right.
What's going on in the body that makes people with depression more susceptible to this?
Well, that's really the million-dollar question. And while the study itself, it doesn't pinpoint the exact causes, there are some strong theories. And one of the major factors is inflammation.
Okay, so inflammation's kind of the big bad villain here.
Right.
But isn't some inflammation good?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's all about balance, right?
Yeah,
inflammation is your body's natural defense system against injury or infection. So it's totally normal. It's necessary. But when it becomes chronic, when it's constantly on, that's when it can start to cause problems. It can actually start damaging tissues and organs. And this ongoing damage can contribute to a whole range of conditions from, heart disease to arthritis to gastrointestinal issues.
Right. So it's like your body's always on high alert,
Exactly.
even when there's no threat.
Yeah.
And that just wears it down.
It takes a toll.
So how does depression fit into all this chronic inflammation?
Well, research shows that depression, it's actually linked to higher levels of inflammation throughout the body.
Okay.
It's not entirely clear why, but it's likely a combination of factors: hormonal changes, disruptions in the immune system, even the way our bodies respond to stress.
Okay, so it's not just inflammation.
Right.
What about lifestyle? Does that play a role too?
Absolutely. Lifestyle factors are huge. People with depression, they might be more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors.
Okay.
Like smoking, having a poor diet, or not getting enough exercise.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, these behaviors can have a direct impact on your physical health.
Right.
Which further increases the risk of developing those conditions we talked about.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle almost.
It is.
The depression can lead to these unhealthy behaviors, which then worsen your physical health, which then makes the depression even worse.
Exactly. It's all interconnected.
It's all tied together.
And there's another piece to this puzzle, and that's the stress response.
Oh, okay.
So depression can actually dysregulate the body's natural stress response system, that fight or flight mode.
Right. Yeah.
That we all experience when we're in challenging situations.
Of course, yeah.
Well, with depression, that system can get stuck in overdrive.
Oh, wow.
Leading to a constant state of stress, even when there's no real danger present.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It's very taxing on the body. And over time, this chronic stress, it can put a lot of wear and tear on your physical health, leading to things like high blood pressure, sleep problems, digestive issues, even heart problems.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we're talking about inflammation, lifestyle factors, this, messed up stress response. It's like depression is just attacking the body from all sides.
It really is a multifaceted issue.
Yeah. But there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. Access to healthcare.
Right.
Could that be playing a role in, how fast these physical conditions develop?
That's a really important point. Individuals with depression, they might face a number of barriers to accessing or even just adhering to medical care for physical conditions.
Okay.
This could be due to things like financial constraints, lack of transportation, or even the stigma surrounding mental health.
Yeah, or even just like feeling too overwhelmed to like even deal with it.
Exactly. You're already dealing with so much.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be really hard to prioritize your physical health.
Yeah, it could feel like too much.
It all adds up. So we're not just looking at a simple mind-body connection here.
Right.
It's much deeper and more complex than that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we're not just talking about like treating symptoms here. We're talking about like recognizing that depression really has this ripple effect.
It does.
Across your whole system.
The whole body.
And that has huge implications for how we think about healthcare.
Absolutely. Huge implications.
Yeah.
Our current healthcare models, they often treat conditions in isolation. You go to a cardiologist for your heart, a gastroenterologist for your stomach, a psychiatrist for your mental health.
Yeah.
But this fragmented approach, it might not be the most effective.
Especially for somebody who's like dealing with depression.
Especially for someone struggling with depression.
Because you're not treating the whole person, you're just treating these little pieces.
Exactly. You're treating the symptoms, but not necessarily the underlying cause.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need more integrated approaches that address both mental and physical health together. But we can delve into that a bit more in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hashtag TTS, the Deep Dive episode 2025, so 220, part 2 of 3. So we're back. And, so far we've really laid out the science, right? Like the connection between depression and developing all these physical health conditions faster.
We have.
And it's not, it's not just in your head, right?
Yeah.
It's not a simple mind-body connection.
Right.
It's way deeper and more complex.
It really is. And I think that's what makes this research so important.
Yeah.
It makes us rethink how we approach healthcare, especially for people dealing with depression.
For sure, yeah. So you were saying at the end of the last part, that our current healthcare models, they kind of treat everything separately.
They do.
So, how do we change that?
Right.
How do we get to a more integrated, approach when we're thinking about the whole person?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Yeah.
So imagine, a system where your primary care physician, your psychiatrist, any other specialists you might need, they're all on the same page,
Yeah.
communicating, working together on a treatment plan that takes every aspect of your health into account, both mental and physical.
Right. So instead of each doctor just focusing on their own little area,
Oh, exactly.
they're all working together.
Yeah, like a team approach.
Yeah, a team approach.
Exactly. And the research on these collaborative care models, it's really promising.
Okay.
Studies have shown that this kind of integrated approach can, lead to better medication adherence. People are more likely to stick with their therapy and even reduce healthcare costs over time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you're not just treating the symptom, you're thinking about the whole picture.
You're addressing the whole person, exactly.
And I imagine, this kind of shift in thinking, that could also change how we, prevent these things in the first place.
Absolutely. You're right on track there. If we know that depression can increase the risk of developing certain conditions, maybe we can focus more on early intervention, mental health support, to prevent or at least delay the onset of those conditions.
It's not just waiting till things go wrong, but being proactive.
Right. Investing in mental well-being from the start.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that early intervention could take a lot of different forms. It could mean routine mental health screenings. as part of your regular checkups, just like we check blood pressure, cholesterol.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, like, you could catch it early.
Exactly. Identify people who might be struggling or at risk and get them the support they need before it, really starts to impact their physical health.
That's out of control.
Exactly. And beyond screenings, early intervention could also involve, like, creating environments that, nurture mental well-being. So that might mean promoting mental health awareness in schools, workplaces, providing resources for stress management, coping skills, fostering a culture where, where people feel comfortable talking about mental health, reducing stigma.
Yeah, that's important. So it sounds like we really need like a multi-pronged approach to prevention.
We do.
Wow.
We need to be addressing it at the individual level, the community level, even at a societal level.
Yeah, like it's about creating a world where mental health is actually valued.
Absolutely. It's about creating a world where mental health is seen as an essential part of a healthy life, just like physical health.
Right.
And a world where people feel comfortable seeking help when they need it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mean, we've talked about a lot of like big ideas here.
We have.
But like, what about our listener?
Right.
What are some things that they can like actually do?
Right. Good question. I think one of the most important things is to just be aware of this connection between mental and physical health.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your body. Notice any changes and don't hesitate to seek help if you're struggling, whether it's physically or mentally.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to like advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
If you feel like you're not getting the support you need, say something.
Absolutely. Ask your doctor about these integrated care models. Explore different therapy options.
Right.
Find what works for you.
Yeah, find what works. And don't underestimate like the power of just making small changes,
Small changes can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, finding healthy ways to manage stress.
All right.
All of these things can have a huge impact on both your mental and your physical well-being.
Yeah, it's about like taking care of the whole you.
Exactly.
Because we often separate things in our minds. It's like, oh, there's my mental health over there and there's my physical health over here.
Right.
We compartmentalize.
But this research shows how connected it all really is.
It really is.
It's all tied together.
It's all connected. Taking care of your mental health is taking care of your physical health and vice versa.
This has been a really fascinating conversation.
It has.
I feel like we've covered so much.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But like, what about the future?
Right.
What are researchers like looking into now? What else is out there?
That's a great question. And that's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to delve even deeper and explore some of the really exciting frontiers of research in this area.
Sounds good. #TTS, the deep dive episode 2025 ZO2 20, part 3 of 3.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive here. Looking at depression's ripple effect on physical health.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing how like we started out unpacking this research and now we're like rethinking healthcare altogether,
It really is. It just shows how much we're still learning about this connection between the mind and body.
Yeah,
and the more we learn, like the more possibilities open up.
Exactly. So let's dive into those possibilities. Like what if we really embrace this idea that depression is a whole body thing? Right. Not just like something in your head. How could that change, like, how we prevent this, how we treat it?
I mean, that's the exciting part, It could fundamentally change things.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the, like, the exciting frontiers? Like, what are researchers really looking into?
Well, one area that's really promising is personalized medicine.
Okay. So what's that?
So imagine, like, a future where treatments for depression are tailored to you. Okay. Specifically to you. Like taking into account your genes, your lifestyle, your symptoms, the whole picture.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all thing.
No, not at all. It's like having a custom-made suit instead of something off the rack.
I like that. Yeah, so it's more targeted.
Much more targeted. And this could go beyond medication too. Right. It could include things like dietary recommendations, exercise programs, stress management techniques. Right. But like specifically designed for you.
Okay, so it's about giving people the tools
Exactly.
to, like, actually make a change.
Empowering people to take control of their own health.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So what about prevention?
Right.
Like, are there new things happening there?
Oh, absolutely. Researchers are, they're looking at a lot of really cool stuff, like using technology to detect early signs of depression.
Okay.
So imagine like wearable devices.
Like a smartwatch or something.
Yeah, like a smartwatch that could track your mood, your sleep, how active you are, even your social interactions.
Wow.
And this data, it could flag potential problems.
It's like an early warning system.
Exactly, like an early warning system for your mental health.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. But what about, like going deeper? What about those things that cause depression in the first place?
Right.
Are researchers looking at that?
Absolutely. They're really digging into the biological mechanisms, things like gut health, inflammation, genetics. And the better we understand those underlying causes, the better we can treat and even prevent depression.
Yeah, so instead of just like, putting a Band-Aid on it,
Right.
we can actually like fix it.
We can get to the root of the problem.
Okay. But, let's be real. This stuff takes time.
It does.
So, like, what can we do right now?
Right.
Like, today?
Well, one of the most important things, and this is something you can start doing today, is just tune in.
Okay.
Tune into your body. Tune into your mind.
Yeah, okay.
Pay attention to how you're feeling, both physically and emotionally.
Right.
And if you notice any changes, don't ignore them.
Or
reach out for help.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think, like, we often ignore those little signs.
We do. We push them aside.
Especially when it's, like, mental health stuff.
It can be hard to face those things.
But it's so important.
It is. Early intervention is key.
Right.
The sooner you address those concerns, the better.
And, I mean, there's help out there, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many resources available. Talk to your doctor, explore therapy options, look into support groups, or even just, reach out to a friend or family member.
Yeah, someone you trust.
Someone you trust, exactly. And don't forget about self-care.
Oh, yeah.
Make time for things that make you feel good.
Okay.
Spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, listening to music, doing something creative.
Right.
These things can make a big difference.
Those little things, they can add up.
They really can. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And making those small changes that lead to a healthier, happier life.
This has been amazing. I mean, we've gone from like the nitty-gritty science to like imagining the future.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. There's so much more to explore.
But I feel hopeful.
Me too.
Like I feel like, okay, we can do this. We can take care of ourselves.
We can. And I hope our listener feels that way too.
Yeah, I hope so too.
This research, it's a call to action. It's a reminder that we can't separate the mind and body.
Yeah.
They're connected. And when we take care of both, that's when we truly thrive.
That's a great way to put it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into depression's ripple effect on physical health.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you guys next time.